What's going on, everybody? So today I'm going to show you how to convert the multiplayer zombie survival template into a top-down shooter. And let's hop right into it. This is the final product, but let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing I've done is I've made a brand new project here. I call my top-down version blah blah blah. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to first, let's open up the HGT. Let's get to the Arena 1 map here. Under the maps folder, we'll open it up. Here we are, and I'm going to make sure we're in our advanced settings. I'm going to turn off game sound so that way it doesn't blast your ears when I go to test, and I'm going to make sure I'm in a new editor window. There we go. So we're third person, but we want to be top down. So the first thing we want to do is we want to open up our character. So let's go to the characters folder, base character, third person character. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is come down here to the third person spring arm, and we'll click it, and we have to adjust some settings here. So under camera settings we want to uncheck use pawn control rotation, uncheck pitch, yaw, and roll, and then also we're going to reset the socket offset, make sure that's 000, and then we're gonna rotate this -80, and then set the spring arm to something like 1200 or however high you want your camera to be up in the sky. Compile and save that. And the next thing we need to do is we need to come up here and click on the third person character itself, which is the very tip top, and under the details panel we're going to type in start game in first person, and we want to make sure this is unchecked. So make sure that's unchecked, set to false, so that way we'll start using our new third person character, which is up in the sky. Let me just compile and save that, and then when you hop into the game, there we go, we're way up in the sky. So first things, let's go to the event graph on the third person character, and over here under hide character, we don't want to hide the character if he collides with things like you do in a third-person game. So you can just you can disconnect these events there. That's number one, and number two is this input axis move forward. It's under the category movement input. We're going to delete that one. Boop, and we're going to delete the move right. Delete that one. Now, I mean, if you're going to do a total top-down, then you can just go ahead and delete all this for the movement input if you don't want it. But I'm trying to do stuff quick here. So we remove that, and let's see. Next thing we need to do is we need to set up the actual controls for this. So there's a couple controls. So if you're just using keyboard and mouse, it'll work out of the box without adding any of these. But if you're wanting controls for like a controller, an Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, or if you just want total keyboard controls with the arrow keys, then we're gonna have to add some of these settings. So to do that, let's go to our project settings. To get to that, you go to Edit, Project Settings. Right here, we're gonna scroll down on the left side and click on Input, and then under Axis Mappings, click the arrow to drop down. And then click this plus, and we're going to click it twice. 1, 2. This will give us 2 new mappings. And I'm going to copy the same names I did over here. One's called look up. Copy. So you would type in look up right here. And then the other one I believe is look right. Yeah, look right. And then we'll type in look right. And then right here is where we would add our controls. So for a game, like a gamepad, you would do gamepad right, thumbstick, y-axis. So let's do that one. Gamepad right, thumbstick, y-axis. Click. And then on the bottom one, you would do gamepad right, thumbstick, x-axis. Boop. And you got to make sure you get these values set. So the top one will be -1. And the other one is +1. So this one for look up is -1. This one down here for look right is +1. Now, if you want to do the arrow keys on your keyboard for making your character look around, then you would just add in the up arrow here, the down arrow here, and the right arrow, and the left arrow. These input keys will let you use the keyboard. So take a look here at the values. You got 1 for up, -1 for down, 1 for right, -1 for left. Alright, for the sake of time, I'm not going to add those in right here because I think, yeah, you get the point. Alright, so now we have controls set up. Now we need to actually put the logic to make those controls work. So I'm going to move over here in some blank space. And let me show you what we're going to do here. So top-down controls. These are the events. Excuse me. Well, let me get some space here. Alright, this is the logic for the Gamepad controls. So I'm going to copy these and paste them over to my project. You can pause the video here and look at it if you need to create these yourself, because you will need to create those yourself. There we go. Got that in. Now we need also the these inputs. So go ahead and pause the video here and create these. And pay special attention to the world direction here. So for the move right, the X value is 0, Y value is 1, Z value is 0. And on the move forward, the world direction is X is 1, Y is 0, and Z is 0. So pay close attention to these values and type them in correctly if you want it to work right. I'm going to copy and paste those over into the template here, into our project. Alright, so that'll give us the ability to move around with our controller. Now we need to set up a new function. So let's come over here to the right hand side under function, click this button, click, and we're going to call it rotate player to mouse. And it's going to do just that. It's going to rotate our character to wherever our mouse cursor is on the screen. And let me just open that up. This one is good. I think I called it aimed across here on my other project, but I like the way we just named it. So let me just copy and paste it into my project real quick, and then I will try to either explain it or just get it in view so you can see what we're doing here. Alright, so I'll go through it somewhat slow so that way you can pause your video and see it. So this is the function. The first thing you want to do is you want to get your controller. So you would right click, type get controller. Then you would drag off and say is valid. Use the one with a question mark here. If it is valid, then you want to drag off of the controller and say set the control rotation. Now what rotation are we going to set it to? That's what we're going to use an R interp to. So you would right click R interp to, and it's right here. And there you would plug this into there, just like I did. Alright, so now that you got these nodes, now we got to find what we're going to plug into these. So we're going to scroll over here to the right. I'll try to go slow so you can see it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get your player controller. So you have your player controller here, right? You drag off of it and you get the controlled pawn. Once you have the controlled pawn, you drag off of it and get the actor rotation, and then get his location, and then get his location again. In order to get all of these values, you would right click on the yellow one and type in, right click on it and click split struct. Let me just paste one over here to show you. So you'd right click, split struct pin, and that's how I got the green individual pins here. Alright, so let me scroll this over so you can see a little better. If I can get it in view, you can just pause the video right there. So if you pause the video right here, you'll be able to see all the nodes you need. So you'll drag off and get this get hit result under the cursor by channel, which is camera, and you can drag off of it and get break this vector here. I think you do the same. You just type break vector. Yeah. And then connect the X to here, goes to the X up here. The Y goes up to the target Y up here. And then the Z on this node comes over and connects to the Z on this node. I think that's pretty much it. Okay, don't mess with the interp speed is 33, that's fine. Alright, now that we have that done, you can compile and save it. And now we gotta hook it up. So let's go over here to the top of here. There's a blue commented section that says event tick, used for crosshair widget spread and stuff here. So technically, since this is a top-down project, you don't even have to, you're not even going to use crosshairs. So you can disconnect this and either delete it or move it out of the way. And we're just going to put our rotate player to mouse that we just created, and we're going to connect it up to the event ticking right here instead. So it's going to run on tick. The only problem with this is, say you're using your controller and it's still going to rotate to your mouse. If you moved your mouse over here in the right hand corner, let go and started playing with your controller, your character's still going to be looking at the mouse over here. To prevent that, you could put a branch in and connect it up right here, and then just come up with your own value here. So like what I would do is I would create a variable called Gamepad enabled, make it a boolean. So on the right hand side over here, it would make it boolean, true or false value. Connect it in, and there you go. Now you're able to see if gamepad is enabled, then you're not gonna rotate to the character. But if it's not enabled, then you are gonna rotate to the character. Now you may be asking, well, how do we set this variable? How does that work? Well, right now you would just set it in the actual like default value of this, but then it'd be set forever. So if you set it here, then yes, it'd always be set. Okay. I'm gonna show you how we can put it in a menu, but it's gonna be there'll be a little bit more to it. So let's finish up this tutorial first, and I'll come back to how we set this gamepad enabled. Right now, for testing purpose, you can just set the default values. Alright. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure our character will shoot straight. So to do that, let's first go up to here and click on his mesh component, and then over here on the right hand side we want to click on the magnifying glass for his animation class. This will take us to his blueprint. Open it up. Now inside we want to go to the animation graph, and let's see, down here where we have these aim offsets, we don't want aim offsets in a top down, so we're just gonna bypass them by connecting this straight into the blend pose and leaving this disconnected. And do the same thing down here. This mannequin aim offset, we're gonna move it away, connect it in. There you go. Well, the aim offset is where you aim up and down. We don't want it in a top down. We always want to shoot straight in front of us. Okay, that's it for the animation. Save that. Now, what's next? Our actual shooting. So to get the player shooting right, shooting straight in front of us, we want to go to the client get shoot direction. So to get this to shoot the way that we want to, we're going to use this arrow that I already have included, which is called bullet trace start. I just grabbed it and moved it on up to the capsule component, but if you want to, you can just, to be easy on you, just delete the bullet trace start, come up here to capsule component, click add, and type arrow, and we're just going to add a simple arrow, and you can call it bullet trace top down, bullet trace top down, or bullet trace start, whatever you want to call it. Then we're just simply going to move this in front of the camera like this. This is not actually where the bullets are going to come from. This is just going to be used to help us shoot later. So now that we have that, let's go back into the client, get shoot direction, and we're just going to drag the bullet trace top down into our graph here, and we're going to drag off and say get world location, and then also drag off and say get forward vector, and then we are going to use our little shortcut by holding down left control and click and hold and move these pins from the camera location to the get world location of what we just made, this node. And do the same for this get actor forward vector. Hold down left control and move these into the forward vector of this new. And basically that just changes, instead of using the camera as a starting point for shooting, we're using that arrow that we just created. And then compile and save. And then when we go into the game, we should be able to shoot and hit whatever we're just shoot straight in front of you and hit whatever. Now, as you can see, this is I'm not a top-down expert, but this only allows you to shoot directly in front of your character. So if there's zombies or something you need to shoot like below you, you're just going to shoot right over the head. I can show you a quick way that, like, if you're still in the client get shoot direction and you scroll over here to the right hand side, there's a return node here, and what you can do is I copied the same thing from our aimed crosshair, where you get your player controller, you get the hit result underneath your mouse cursor and get that location. You can use this however you want. I'm just trying to show you a way. Don't take this as the gospel truth, as it has to be done this way, but you can use this impact point and plug it into the 2 right there, and that should let you shoot exactly where your mouse is. So let's go into the game. If I hit Q, you can see I'm shooting where my mouse cursor is now. So if I get up on a high ground, I want to shoot down below me like this, shooting where my mouse cursor is. So I can shoot up, shoot down. Should be some zombies spawning, I'll show you that. So here they come. I'm above them. Before we couldn't hit them, but now I can shoot now. Yeah. So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a master on how these, an expert on how these top-down games work, but you can take something like this, or however you want it, and make it shoot or work however you want it to work. Check my completed project here. So we added the controls, stuff like that. We deleted that and that. There's only a few more things to add. We need to go into the begin play and add a bunch of nodes. So in the project, there's a blue section here called begin play. It says event begin play. So if you follow it over to the right, you'll have all these nodes that are getting set. Go down to the bottom here, right under mouse sensitivity, and we're going to add these nodes in. I'm copying and pasting them for the sake of time, but I'll sit here and zoom it out so you can pause the video and look at them. So you connect it up. The first one is set input mode, game, and UI. You have to drag off of the get player controller in order to get this, and we want to change this drop down to lock always, and then uncheck the checkbox here. Next one, this one just sets your mouse cursor to the cardinal cross, which is looks like an arrow, like a plus sign arrow. You don't have to set this if you don't want. There's all kinds of different mouse cursor icons. You can just leave it the same one if you want. I just threw it in because, I don't know, thought it looked kind of cool. Now you also want to drag off and show the mouse cursor, so you want to check that to true. And you also want to drag off of the player controller and set the audio listener override. And then take the mesh up here in the mesh component and drag it in and connect it up to the attached component there, like that. I just did that for you to show you how to do it. Alright, so what that does, that actually overrides, instead of hearing things from the camera, you're hearing things from the character's mesh. And I say that because if you look at our camera, it's 20 miles in the sky, and you won't be able to hear anything if you're listening up there. So now we moved our ears down to here where our actual character is, and we'll be able to hear things normally. And we got to click on the spring arm for our camera, and let's just go over here, and we want to uncheck the inherit pitch, inherit yaw, and inherit roll. We don't want those checked at all. So now we have that set up. And then we also need to go, let me compile and save real quick. We also got to go disable the crosshair in our widget, our HUD. So let's go to widgets, HUD, player HUD widget, and we're not going to be needing a crosshair for a top-down game, so we're going to click it and scroll down here to visibility, click the drop down and remove the binding here, and then just change it to collapsed. And there we go. Now it'll be hidden from our view. We don't have to see it. And I think we can hop into the game, click play, and there we go. We can move around. I got the little cross here. If I hit Q, you'll be able to see the line traces. So that's where our bullets are hitting. And if it's right, no matter where I click, it's always shooting in the direction that it should be. There we go. Bang, 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 bang. I think that's it. Now, let's get to our controller issue. So see, now I pick up my controller and I'm moving with my right joystick. But if I let go, boop, he snaps right back to my, snaps back to following the mouse. Which would get annoying if you're trying to play like this and you're shooting at zombies and you let go and he starts looking that way. And you're like, hey, I'm trying to look at the zombies and shoot here, and he keeps snapping back to the mouse. That's what I was gonna show you at the end of this video, because that was pretty much the end. I'm gonna show you how you can set up maybe like a menu or something to control this gamepad enabled value. So what you can do is I would go to widgets and then UI and then let's see, settings menu, UMG settings menu. No, it's not the settings menu. It's the UMG gameplay options. So I have a little like options thing here set up. The only one that I have in here is auto reload when empty. And this was just for an example purpose, but we can just copy and use it if we want to. So what you can do is, let's see, we're going to click on the window mode box here, which is the horizontal box. Right click it, duplicate it, and then we're going to minimize this one. So this is it pretty much made a whole new horizontal box. And we're going to change the text to something like enable gamepad. Or yeah, enable gamepad, and then this checkbox will be true or false. This is what you usually see in most games. So then let's make this checkbox work. So by default, I would say you would probably want it, well, it doesn't really matter what it is. We're gonna make it work by itself. So let's go to the graph view and click on a new variable here, and we're gonna call this enable gamepad, question mark, compile, save. And then we're going to come back over to the design view and we're going to bind this to that variable, enable gamepad, boop. That way when this is created, whatever the variable is what it'll get set to, either check true or check uncheck for false. Alright, so now click the checkbox, scroll all the way down and click on this plus sign. This will do the on check state changed event. And if you look right above it, we pretty much have the same thing for the auto reload. So the easiest way, naming convention may not sound right, but we could use this save game class for auto reload and do the exact same logic for, even though it's called reload, we'll do the same thing for our gamepad. So what we're going to do is we'll drag over here, we'll set the enable gamepad to whatever the box is when you click it, and then we'll just drag off of this and do a sequence node. Sequence just does this and then it does this. So the first thing it's going to do, it's just going to connect up here and create a save game object, which is the SG auto reload. And then after that we're going to, let's see, get owner or get owning. It's something in here, if I can spell it right. Get owning player pawn. So this will be the actual player that owns this widget, and we want to cast to third person character. And what we're going to do here is when we cast off, we want to set that variable, set gamepad enabled, which is what we were using earlier that I was telling you about. And then we'll just set it to whatever we have checked here. So if we have it, if it's checked to true, then it'll be enabled. False will be false. And this right here will work while you're in the game, but the problem is it doesn't save it permanently. So if you were to check the box, leave the game, play the game the next day, then you would have to re-enable the gamepad in the menus. Who wants to do that, right? So we're going to try to save it in, we'll save it to file so that way it'll load it every time, which is pretty cool. So to do that, we have to click this magnifying glass on the SG auto reload. It'll take us to this file here. We're going to open it, and let's just make a new variable. We'll call it enable gamepad. Compile, save. That's all we got to do inside there. Close it. Now we want to drag off of this and set enable gamepad. And this is going to look kind of spaghetti junction here, but we're going to set it and then set it. I'll move it back just to clean it up a little bit. Ay, 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 look at all the blue lines. There, maybe that's a little easier to read. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to get what we have, what it's checked as, and then we're going to set it but inside of the save game state, just like we saved the reload here. Then it's going to save it to a slot, and then it's going to say we need to save it in our game info instance so we can get it easily. So let's go to game info instance, which is under core blueprints, all levels, game info instance. Open it up, and we should have a event here called event init, which is initialize. We're going to scroll all the way down the end down here where we set up our sensitivities and mouse sensitivities and sound and all of that good stuff. We're going to make a new function. We'll call it set gameplay options. Okay, and what we're going to do inside here is pretty much the same thing that we do inside of these. So if you open up, say, set gamepad sensitivity, we're going to just copy and paste this logic here, and then this little node right here at the end. We'll copy and paste those into our new blank set gameplay options here. And if you remember right, we named our reload is what we named our slot that it's going to save it in, a slot called a reload. So make sure you type it right with a capital R. We got to put reload in there and reload in there, and we have to change this drop down here to SG what is it called? Auto reload. SG auto reload. That's the save game class that we created. Like I said, the naming is off. You can redo these naming if you want, totally, but hey, we're working with what we already got, right? Alright, so now we want to drag off of this and set auto reload, and we also want to set gamepad enabled, or enable gamepad. We're going to set these values. Actually, no, we don't want to set these values. We want to get these values. What am I talking about? We want to get auto reload, and we want to get enable gamepad. And what we're going to do with these is you need to make one more variable here. We already have reload. I'm going to make another one called enable gamepad. I don't know why I called this reload. Kind of a bad naming, but oh well. It is what it is, you know. Sorry about that. So then we connect auto reload to reload, and then this enable gamepad variable we created here. We're going to set that one as well. There we go. So we're pulling it from our save file, setting it here, and then we're going to save it to slot. Boom. And actually make sure that says reload as well. Reload, not gamepad. Saves it. Now if it does load a slot, reload, then you want to load game, pull the same values here. I'm going to copy and paste this logic. Copy, copy. Pasta, pasta. Drag off and connect these up. It's not gonna let me, is it? I think you have to cast to SG auto reload. Connect this to there. Then you can pull off of it and connect it to these values here. There we go. Move it over so it doesn't look so crazy. And there you go. So now it will pull these values out of your save game file and save them here into the game info instance. And I don't, let me check one thing real quick. Okay, you don't have to actually save it to the, you don't have to do this node at the end. Delete that one. Alright, so now that we set up these gameplay options here, for we saved all this, we want to go back to the event graph. And at the end of the event initialization event, we want to drag in our set gameplay options function, connect it up, and there we go. Save. Alright, so now we have this. Now what does all this mean? You may be like scratching your head like, what the heck are we doing right now? Well, it's all for a purpose. We're going to come back into the third person character now, and at the end of the begin play, down here where we, let me scroll up to it. Begin play, follow it over, follow it down. Right after we set the audio listener, we're actually going to get our, we've done it up here. Copy and paste this right here, the game info instance. I'm just going to copy and paste it down here so we can see it better. You can drag lines from there if you want, but it's going to look like spaghetti junction. We can actually get the gamepad, enable gamepad, and then you can set that variable that we created, the gamepad enabled. You can set it here to whatever we load from our saved file. So hopefully that, maybe a light bulb went off in your head. You're like, oh, okay, so we're going to get the value from our save game, set it here in the play here, so that way when the player when it goes to run this check on tick, it's going to say, oh, we don't have to rotate the player because we're using a game controller, or vice versa. Alright, so there's one more thing though before we finish this up and try it out. Back in the actual player widget here, where you check the box inside of the gameplay options, you have to set it inside the event construct. So we're going to come over here and it loads. We drag off, we get enable gamepad, and then we set it, enable gamepad, set, like that. And we do the same thing down here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this real quick. Copy, paste, connect it up. If it'll behave. There we go. And then connect this one to here. And there we go. Now it will pull these values and we should be good to go. The other last little thing we need to do is we need to go to the start menu, pause menu. That's what I'm thinking of. Widgets, UI, settings, pause menu, and go to the graph. And right inside here is where you unpause the game. Instead of using the set input mode game only, we're going to drag off and use set input mode game and UI. And we're going to delete this one, get him out of there, connect this one up, connect them down to there, and we want to uncheck this, and we want to lock always, I believe. And then I think that's it. I'll double check it here. Lock always, connect, and we want to show the mouse cursor as well. So make sure we set these up. Also check this to true, and I believe that may be it. Let's hop into the game. So now you can see your mouse cursor. You can pause the game, you can resume. I can still see my mouse cursor. Pause the game, go to settings, game options, hit click, save, resume. Now he's not following, as you can see. He's not following my mouse at all, but if I pick up my controller in my hand, my controller works. Hear those joysticks? Alright, so just to show you how it works now, I'm playing with the controller. If I pause the game and I go to settings and I uncheck it, save, resume. Now I'm playing with a mouse. Close the game, reopen the game. I'm still playing with mouse, which is cool. Now let's try the reverse where we set gamepad enabled, save, resume. Now you can see I can't control my character, but I can with my controller. Playing with controller and I close the game, boom, and I come back 3 days later and I go to play my game. Still can't use my mouse because I'm still saved with the controller. It actually loaded the settings. If you go in here and look, it's actually loaded from last time. It's still there. And there we go. So that's pretty much it, guys. The other stuff is basically cosmetic. So like, I feel like a top-down game like that would look good with projectile weapons probably, because you can actually see your bullets flying through the air. So the only thing I tell you is if you're doing listen server games and stuff like that, don't make a minigun shoot 7,000 bullets a second and shoot projectiles. That's what a line trace is for. So you use these normal guns or line trace. The only problem with the line trace is you can't actually see the bullet flying through the air. But you can fake it, guys. Like, just fake it with a particle effect. Like, where you play your muzzle flash. Play a cool looking effect that looks like a bullet smoke trail. I mean, that's what games like Fortnite and stuff like that do. Them line trace weapons, they fake it. They just play particle effects that look like bullets flying through the air, but they're not really bullets. They're just particle effects. So let me show you where you could possibly put that. So there's a function inside third-person character called simulate shooting, and it's right inside here is where we play the muzzle flash. Right here it depends if you're using a blueprint weapon or not. Is why I split it 2 different ways. But basically you can come off of this and just do like spawn emitter at location, and then just connect these both down right here and just pick your cool looking what do you call it, particle effect for a bullet. I don't have any on me right now. I'd show you, darn it, but you know what I'm saying, like a smoke trail that comes out of the gun, and you would play these, maybe play them here or something. That's what I'd do. I'd fake it because that's what all the big games do. But I mean, on the other side, you can just use projectile weapons. But like I said, don't lag your game to pieces trying to do a minigun shooting projectiles. But other than that, guys, the video's pretty much over. I think it covers everything. If you want to tweak the blend spaces here, you can go to animations and blend spaces, and this is for the walk-in animations, left and right and backwards. Some people may want to tweak them or change them. These are just the standard default animations that Unreal gives you. They're not the greatest. They'll get the point across. They look okay, but they're not perfect. But they are 4-way directional, so you can go in and tweak them and change them. Let me just open one up. Let me just show you. So like on the hip, you can come down here. When you open up a blend space, you scroll all the way down here to the bottom. There's called sample interpolation. You can change this interpolation weight here. Right now I think it's set to 2. You can lower it, raise it, play around with that value to see what makes your legs and everything look right when you're walking around in various directions. And you can do that for all of them. You got the aiming, you got the crouching. Play around with the values. I think this one is probably set to 2. So, I don't know, just play with those values. But that wraps up the tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe or leave a cool comment, if I helped you out or taught you something, then do it. Also, if you don't have this project, then I don't know why you're watching this video. No, I'm just kidding. Come over to the Unreal Engine Marketplace and check it out. I got it for sale over there along with some other stuff. Maybe one day I'll have a whole collection of things on there. But yeah, go on there, check it out. Leave me a great review too. I mean, I think of all the people, there's only, I don't know, 20 something good reviews. So go on there, leave me a 5-star review. Tell me how much you like the video and how much you like the template or what you're gonna make with it or whatever. I like to hear feedback, guys. If you got ideas on what else I should do, more tutorials or other products I should make, leave a comment or go to my Discord channel and let me know there. I got a section in the Discord for suggestions and things like that. Let me know. So, alright. That pretty much sums it up, guys. I'll talk to you later.